The sun was beating down on the back deck of my lake cabin when the familiar crunch of tires on gravel made my stomach drop. There she was again, Barbara "Barb" Kensington, the HOA president, stepping out of her silver Lexus like she owned the entire shoreline, clipboard in hand and a smug smile that screamed trouble. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked over, already knowing this wasn't going to be friendly. Barb didn't wave. She never did. Mid-50s. Platinum bob sprayed into submission. Oversized sunglasses. And that damn clipboard like it was the Constitution itself. "Rachel," she said, voice dripping with fake politeness. "We have a problem." I raised an eyebrow. "Do we?" She pointed past me to where I'd parked my car. "That vehicle. And you. This property is under Lakewood Pines HOA jurisdiction. You're not on the approved residency list. Unauthorized occupancy." I almost laughed. Almost. "Barb, this is my cabin. My father gifted it to me on my 26th birthday. Deeds filed. Recorded. Everything legal." She scoffed. The sound sharp enough to cut glass. "Impossible. No transfer was brought before the board. We control usage here. Property values depend on it." I kept my face neutral. But inside I was already taking notes. This wasn't the first time Barb had flexed on people. I'd heard the whispers from neighbors who suddenly decided to sell after months of violations. I just hadn't expected the target to land on me so fast. "Call the sheriff if you want," I said calmly. "I'll wait." 15 minutes later. A deputy rolled up looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Barb launched into her tirade about community standards and unauthorized residency. The deputy asked for proof. I handed over the deed. He scanned it, looked at Barb, and delivered the line that made her face twist like she'd bitten into a lemon. "Ma'am, she owns the property. No trespassing here." Barb's mouth opened. Closed. Then opened again. "This is a mistake. The bylaws are very clear. County records trump your bylaws when the property isn't even inside your boundary," the deputy said tiredly. "Take it to civil court if you're serious." I thought that would shut it down. I was wrong. A week later. A fancy envelope showed up in the mailbox, Lakewood Pines HOA crest. Golden pine tree. The whole official-looking package. Inside, a notice of noncompliance. Section 4B. Unauthorized residency. 15 days to vacate or face liens. Sanctions. Legal action. Signed by Barb and her 2 loyal sidekicks. I read it twice. Then smiled. Not because it was funny. Because this was the moment I stopped being polite. While Barb thought she was intimidating some young woman who'd just moved in, I was already 3 steps ahead. I spent the next few days at the county recorder's office pulling every document related to the HOA's formation, boundaries, and easements. My dad, who still lived nearby, connected me with his old surveyor buddy. The guy unrolled a 15-year-old map and tapped a line just west of our cabin. "Your lot's always been outside their jurisdiction. North Ridge was never included. They've been bluffing on half the properties up here for years. We got everything notarized, maps, developer affidavits, the works." I compiled it into a thick binder titled Unlawful Enforcement Attempt. Then I drove straight to Barb's house and hand-delivered it. She cracked the door like she was afraid I'd bite. "You're making a mistake, young lady." "No, Barb," I said sweetly. "You did. This is your chance to walk it back before things get embarrassing." The door slammed in my face. 3 days later. I came home from the store to find a bright orange sticker plastered across my front window, notice of immediate violation, unauthorized occupancy, subject to removal. Fake official stamp and everything. That was the moment the smile left my face. I called the sheriff's office. 2 deputies arrived. Deputy Alvarez, a no-nonsense woman who'd clearly dealt with Barb before, took photos of the sticker, flipped through my binder, and asked one key question. Has the HOA ever tried to enforce anything on this property before you moved in? Never, I said. She closed the binder. This isn't enforcement. This is fraud. They're impersonating legal authority to intimidate you off your own land. The male deputy whistled low. That's criminal. They filed a report on the spot and told me to leave the sticker exactly where it was. Evidence speaks louder than words. Word travels fast in a small lakeside community. A few days later, my neighbor Tasha from 2 lots down showed up at my door with her own folder. Hands shaking. Voice low. They did this to my cousin. Same stickers. Same threats. She sold and moved out of state. I've been quiet for years, but I'm done. She laid out photos. Old notices. Timelines. Identical language. Same intimidation playbook. We copied everything and added it to the growing case file. Then the certified letter arrived from the HOA's lawyer, Small Claims Court, demanding reparations for damage to community standards. I didn't even blink. I filed a countersuit the same week: harassment, attempted fraud, defamation, and emotional distress. The evidence was overwhelming. The neighborhood started buzzing. People who'd avoided eye contact for months suddenly waved. A few quietly admitted they'd been pressured before but never fought back. One guy muttered, "Finally someone's standing up to the Queen." A week before the hearing, the HOA sent a settlement offer: drop everything, voluntarily disassociate, and they'd forget the whole thing. I tore the letter in half on camera and sent the video to my lawyer. The morning of the hearing, the courtroom felt electric. Barb sat there in her best blazer, looking every bit the concerned community leader. Her attorney tried the usual song and dance about protecting property values. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman who'd clearly seen too many HOA cases, cut him off fast. "Counselor, is this property even within the boundaries defined in your bylaws and filed with the county?" The attorney hesitated. "Well, historically. Not historically. Legally." He had nothing. I presented everything: deeds, surveys, the developer's letter, Tasha's evidence, the sheriff's fraud report. When I played the body cam footage of the deputies calling the sticker attempted fraud, Barb's face went pale. The judge issued a temporary restraining order on the spot and referred the case to the district attorney for criminal review. Outside the courthouse, Tasha hugged me. "You just did what none of us could." But it wasn't over. That afternoon, 2 investigators from the county fraud unit showed up at my cabin. They took the sticker into evidence and started asking questions about Silver Horizon Management, a mysterious consulting firm the HOA had paid over $80,000 to in the last 3 years. Turns out Silver Horizon didn't exist. It was a shell company Barb and her board had created to funnel association money into their own pockets. They'd used it to pay hush money, forge documents, and quietly seize properties from people they wanted gone. The deeper the investigators dug, the worse it got. 3 days later, the HOA website went dark. The community forum was wiped clean. Too late, I'd already screenshot everything. The raid happened at dawn. Squad cars at the clubhouse. Boxes of files. Computers. And a lock safe carried out. Inside the safe, blank violation stickers, rubber stamps, spreadsheets tracking problem residents, and handwritten notes from Barb herself detailing who to target next. Residents who'd stayed silent for years finally spoke up. Emails, recordings, stories of forged deeds and forced sales poured in. The state attorney general's office got involved. Federal charges followed: wire fraud, forgery, racketeering, conspiracy to commit real estate theft. Barb, her 2 board members, the fake consultant, who turned out to be her nephew, and the notary who'd faked signatures all got arrested. Barb's second arrest happened at her real estate office, in front of clients and coworkers. The photo of her in handcuffs made the local news. Platinum Bob still perfect. But the entitled smirk was finally gone. The trial was brutal for them. The jury saw the pattern. The greed. The decade-long scheme dressed up as community standards. Guilty on all counts. Barb got 8 years. The others got 5 and 3. The HOA was dissolved by court order. Remaining funds were returned to residents. I never cashed my restitution check. I donated it to a legal aid group that helps homeowners fight abusive HOAs. Months later, the cabin feels like home again. New dock built by neighbors who now actually talk to each other. Vegetable garden in full bloom. Wind chimes on the porch that someone anonymously hung as a quiet thank you. One evening, as the sun set over the lake, a county official brought the final court order dissolving the HOA. I framed it, not out of spite, but as a reminder. They thought silence and fear would keep everyone in line. They never counted on someone who'd had enough. So tell me in the comments, was Barb just a dedicated community leader protecting property values, or was she a power-hungry fraud who finally got what she deserved? When does enforcing the rules cross the line into outright theft and intimidation? Who's really in the wrong here, the woman who fought back? Or the Karen who thought the law didn't apply to her? Drop your thoughts. I read every single one.